Recording is in progress.
Thank you, Andrew. So I guess I could repeat a little bit of what that is. So the agenda for today that I had marked down in the latest email was number one, creating the backbone of our UnityNet Global Partnership for Regenerative Development. So this is what UnityNet International is doing in terms of establishing a partnership.
Lloyd, perhaps
Yes.
you could begin by introducing yourself. There'll be people that will be seeing the replay that have no idea who you are. So just, do your normal hello, beginning, and then introduce your guest. You know how we do it, Lloyd.
Okay, all right. So I guess if we are recording this, and it will be public. My name is Lloyd Halferty, and I am Chief Ecosystem Director, Program Development Director, and Sustainable Society Consultant for Energym University, which is headquartered in Manhattan, but I'm in, like I said, in the city of Markham, north of the city of Toronto, in Canada, Ontario, specifically. So I like to mention the watersheds I'm in. The Don River is specifically, and I'm actually in a sub-watershed called German Mills Creek, which all of it drains into Lake Ontario. So the last of the 5 Great Lakes here in Southern Ontario, Canada. Of course, I am the Goodwill Ambassador through Andrew Networks and the 5 Points Youth Foundation partnership we have through Drawdown Markham for Canada, the Francophonie, the Commonwealth of Nations, and Turtle Island communities as well. So I'm working with a community group here called Drawdown Markham, which I co-founded, working together with my colleagues here to try to establish a local network of these Unity Gardens in the Greater Toronto area. So this is part of the mandate of the Global Unity Network, is to establish these local learning centers for essentially the solutions to achieving what we're calling the productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So as we sort of look at the global goals, those sustainable development goals, the 17 SDGs, which are intended to be implemented between the year 2015 and 2030, we're a little bit over 7 years away from 2030. And now thinking, well, what's post 2030? What will be the goals post 2030? Those haven't really been discussed at this time. What will happen in 7 years? What will be the goals, those global goals in the next iteration? So what we want to try to do is start demonstrating some of the potential solutions for achieving this productive, compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind, which we hope will form the basis for the next set of global goals, where we want to start showcasing some of these regenerative solutions. So what we call the demonstrating within the context of open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions in our local communities, and doing this in the context of these learning centers, these Unity Garden learning centers, which we want to establish in every local community that's part of our global Unity network. So we would want to build one here. We're going to want to build one in South Africa, in Kenya, in Uganda, in Nigeria, in all of these communities, in Sri Lanka, in India. So we're building the network right now so that we can connect all of these Unity Gardens together over what we call a virtual collaborative network. And that way we can create a global network of local Unity Garden learning centers and connect all of these what we call female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs together on this metaverse interchange for peace space for learning about these local solutions that we can implement in each of our own local communities and deliver on using that platform the learning programs.
Excuse me, Lloyd. I thought this was about the International Youth Day coming up, and on August the 12th, or am I mistaken?
Well, the idea of this session was as per the agenda that I did share, was to actually begin this to bring in other members of the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development and have discussions related to these projects that we would like to do, these Celebrating the Diversity catalytic projects.
Well, I know Mark is here, who's been in previous meetings, but also Marshawn Kinsey is here, who's from the original 2011 AG Action Team that launched this thing. Shima Johnson is here from the United Hood Nation here in Los Angeles. Wayne Lyons is here from Global Business Incubation and Empire for Youth. We have people here that have no clue about what you're talking about. So perhaps you could begin with sharing an agenda so we can take full use of the time we have available today.
And I did send the agenda out. What I'll do is I sent it by email, but I'll copy it into the chat as well.
Or you could share your screen so we can actually all see it.
I'll just need to.
Can you share your screen so we can all see it?
My screen doesn't show very much. It's very small, right?
Then perhaps you could read it so that at least those here could have an idea of what it is. And then, since we do have new people here, maybe we could do 2 minutes to introduce those people that are here so we'll know who's in the room.
So I'm just putting it into the chat right now. So,
hi, Dr. Shima. How are you?
Hello.
Lloyd, in case you don't know, Dr. Shima is also Vice President of our United Hood Nation group here in Los Angeles. Marshawn Kinsey, as I said, from 2011, has been part of our extended Andrew Networks. So this is really an Andrew Networks collaborative. So we're all happy to be here.
Yeah, so I'm just copy pasting the agenda I put down there. So no, this wasn't necessarily related to the World Humanitarian Day discussions. That's actually I hadn't thought about actually doing any event on that day because I know there's those WOPE awards on that day, so I didn't want to clash with that. We're going to focus on that. I think that's also a live event that you're doing, Andrew, I believe.
Well, we have 24 hours of the day, Lloyd, and 2 Zoom accounts, so I can do a lot.
So I did put the agenda in. So essentially, this idea is to create the backbone of the UnityNet Global Partnership for Regenerative Development.
But before you go forward, Lloyd, please, we have guests here that won't be here long, so at least allow them to introduce themselves for at least 2 minutes, and then we'll have an idea of who's here. They can put their information in the chat for follow-up so that they can, if they choose to follow up. So please be so kind.
Well, I was just going to read the brief agenda, but we can have the introductions first if you wish.
Please.
So perhaps we'll start with David, since it was himself that actually catalyzed this meeting in the first place, I believe, through the conversations we were having regarding the partnership we may be able to create.
Yeah.
Okay, David, the floor is yours.
I'm Dr. David Harris Grants. For those of you who don't know me, I have a vocal cord disability, so bear with me. I'm a retired doctor of public health. I say retired, but I'm affiliated with about 10 international public health and anti-poverty organizations. I happen to be president of my local Rotary Club. And when Lloyd in the last meeting described what he's doing with the garden project with the Markham Rotary Club up there. I couldn't help but speak up and say that my Rotary Club is looking for a global domestic project that reflects the sustainable development goals, as well as the Rotary 7 areas of concentration. So if Jim, I believe it's Van Santafleur at the Markham Rotary Club would like to collaborate, that's what we're here for. Thank you.
Okay, yes, excellent.
Well, Dr. Shima, I'm going to ask you to step up since you happen to be, it looks as though, our only lady guest. So the floor is yours, Regina Shima. Johnson.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm kind of excited to be on this call so I can learn more about what's going on. As Andrew Williams had mentioned, I am the Vice President of United Nations. I'm also working with the LAWIN project. Is our policies and planning and food policies for Los Angeles. And what we're doing, we're organizing a team with the USDA to tackle food insecurities in Los Angeles. And we're also collaborating as we speak with different groups over in Canada to build sustainable farming for our communities. And so I'm excited to be here and to kind of figure out what's going on and just do a lot of things in the community, you know. So I'm just going to listen and be more informed. And thank you again, Andrew, for collaborating and bringing us together at this moment to do better. Thank you.
You're very welcome. All right, Wayne Lyons, you were here. Then Heinrich, you were here again, as always, among our first. So Wayne Lyons and then Heinrich, please.
Yes, greetings, peace and love, you guys. And it's an honor to be here. Thank you for having me, and thank you for your commitment to leadership and bringing these leaders together and organizing these type of events. And like Ambassador Williams mentioned, how a connection, I was able to get introduced to the GBI, Global Business Incubation, which helped to develop more of what we do with our nonprofit Empire for the Youth. And I actually just got off a call with Dr. Paul Ruffin, who has a partnership with that's incoming, where helps with everything that Mr. Lloyd was talking about with virtual schools and being able to bring information and knowledge and empowerment to our communities. And that's pretty much what my focus is as an ambassador of peace and love. I also have a consulting company called Mastermind Consulting Group. And what we want to do is connect with like-minded leaders. So we have a glue network, which is Global Leaders Uniting Everywhere, to be able to bring the sustainability to projects like this. So we offer access to capital to give the initial funding to get whether we want a pilot program or a model system of what the proof of concept is. So that way we could showcase to our other partners, like, hey, when we come together, these are the results we can get. And also just leadership development, talking about physical, personal, spiritual, financial knowledge and empowerment through resources and sharing networks together. So it's an honor to be here, and just I'm here to serve in any way that I could serve. I would love to be able to do so. So thank you for having me.
And physically, you're in the Chicago, Illinois area?
Yes. I'm here in Chicago.
All right, Heinrich, then Marshawn Kinsey. Heinrich, please, unmute and introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Heinrich van der Merwe. I'm an engineer in Van der Bijlpark, part of the big Witwatersrand watershed, and right next to the Vaal River. Although highly polluted, it's one of the beautiful stretches of river in the world. I believe that UnityNet South Africa is going to be a gateway chapter in the Unity Net group, and we need to develop a very strong unit to support what we are planning to do in South Africa and the rest of Africa. And I'm throwing my weight in and make my services available to achieve just that in South Africa. And I'm very keen on what we are looking at tonight, talking about catalytic projects to ignite the things that we are standing for, to make sure that we take the communities that we are responsible for with us, and that we always have our eye on the livability issues that goes with the projects that we are proposing and promoting. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Marshawn Kinsey. And then I see Nichelle Farrell just joined us. Nichelle, we're just in the introductory phase, so welcome to us. But Marshawn Kinsey, can you unmute and introduce yourself?
Just Marshawn Kinsey from the Mighty Forefront. I'm just here looking to know Andrew Williams. I got the email, looking to see what we can do as we get ready to move forward on a lot of different special projects. So we do a lot of different things economically. So I'm just here listening in.
Thank you. Mark, I know you're there, but Nichelle, you've just come in, so please take a moment and introduce yourself. Nichelle Farrell.
Hello, I'm Nichelle Farrell, one of the global ambassadors for the United Nations, and work with the Andrew Williams Network, as well as the Universal Hip Hop Museum on the West Coast, and the Inglewood NAACP, and so many other nonprofit organizations. And I'm a teacher of 23 years, and it's just so much, but I'm an educator, so into education and entertainment, and I'm a self-published author of 261 books at this time, and so I love education, and I'm so thankful that I just checked my email and I can be a part of this wonderful, wonderful forum. Thank you.
All right, Mark B., you're there, Mr. Pasanti.
Hi there, nice being here, Andrew. Thanks for inviting. I'm Mark, and I'm the founder and CEO of CarbonShot.Earth, where we're looking to build regenerative economic systems. And I'm also a co-founder at UnityNet, alongside Lloyd and a few other folks. Yeah, so happy to be here to discuss next steps. Thank you.
Okay, Lloyd, the ball's back in your court. Everyone's introduced themselves. I'm Andrew Williams Jr. As I said, this is being provided to you by Andrew Networks. And this is a continuation of a project launched several years ago. We now will be launching what's called the AHIABGA-TV network relatively soon. AHIABGA is for the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Global Ambassadors, Advocates, and Activists. So we do have support from multiple organizations. Many of them have been sponsored here or have been noticed here. The Ed Food Foundation in Oakland, California. Also, the New World Network, which will be coming online to take the work that we've been doing so far on Zoom and the internet to Amazon Fire and Roku to reach a worldwide audience of millions. So we are the gateway to the future, and we're happy to be here to support your efforts. All right, Lloyd, the ball's back in your court.
Thank you, Andrew. And thank you, Mark and Heinrich and Nichelle and Regina. Everybody, David, Wayne, Marshawn, I'm glad to see you all on this call. I did write in the chat a brief agenda. I'm hoping everybody can see it. If not, I can always repeat that one more time. But essentially what UnityNet International is now doing, so we've helped to establish, we have a colleague, Carlos, who's in Sierra Leone, one of the least developed countries in Africa, who's been taking the reins on establishing this UnityNet African Diaspora organization, and we're using social media to build this network. So we've been using WhatsApp and Facebook and LinkedIn to create 3 different networks: discussion networks, public networks over Facebook, and professional networks over LinkedIn. So we have a number of country chapters in each of the countries of Africa. Now I think there's around 26 or 27 countries that are represented by these country chapters so far, which is approximately half of the countries of Africa, with lots of activity in Sierra Leone, in Nigeria, in Kenya, in South Africa. And so we're building this network at this time. We've been doing it for about a year. And so in partnership with our colleagues here in Canada, so myself, Mark, Angela, and Stephanie, who are building this UnityNet International. So with Africa being our first continental network, and with the African network being a model for other continental networks that we will want to eventually create. So in, for instance, South Asia, Southeast Asia, East Asia, even Europe, and of course here on Turtle Island, North America, which we also like to, for now at least, include South America as well. So the entirety of the Americas, including Caribbean and Central America. So looking beyond. So we're trying to establish as many as 7 continental networks, but the African network will be the backbone and where we use it as a template for all of the rest. So at this point, we are still building the African network. We're not creating any new African chapters. We're focusing on the ones we've created already. And so we are trying to build projects that bridge the divide, that bridge the Atlantic, essentially. Some pilot projects in North America, hopefully at least one in Canada, and some in the US, potentially some in Mexico at some future date, some in the Caribbean. Our main partner, this actually all started with a Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting ceremony we did during the pandemic in the year 2020. In the summer of 2020, we had a sunlight spectacle event. And that was done in Toronto, where we planted a Tree of Peace and Reconciliation here in St. Jamestown, Toronto. And then another Tree of Peace and Reconciliation was planted on the island of Bermuda, at the crossroads of the Atlantic, at the crossroads of Hamilton, Bermuda. And so these are symbolic trees that were twinned. So we wanted to create twin projects. So we are creating what we call these Unity Garden Learning Centers, which are essentially using what we call open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions. So essentially gardens, food forests, kitchens, regenerative farms. We're looking at a specific type of farm called a Wheel of Life farm as a model for regenerative urban solutions potentially as well. And then we're also looking at these pyropod solar roof pod buildings as well as regenerative solutions for urban communities in particular. So this vertical farming. And we'd like to set them up as learning centers, as cooperatives that are run by the local community members, where we especially engage with the schools. So these learning centers would essentially partner with all of the members of the local community. So we create what we call interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives in the local communities, which would be empowerment networks for what we call female and feminist humanitarian entrepreneurs who would actually create these cooperatives, these learning centers, which would then partner with the rest of the community in order to educate and train, especially the community members that are the most marginalized in the communities. So we're looking at, for instance, here, homeless people, immigrants, refugees, people that are coming into, for instance, here in Canada. Many years ago, of course, there were a lot of immigrants but there were many refugees that Canada took in from, for instance, even now from the Ukraine and the war in Ukraine. We're accepting a lot of refugees into Canada from that war, and so we'd like to be able to engage those immigrant communities, those refugee communities, those homeless people, the people that are furthest left behind in our communities, to train them, to provide education and training in the context of the gardens for hands-on learning, but also in the context of what we call the virtual collaborative network, which is what we're hoping to build, of course, is this metaverse space, or at least develop a partnership with somebody who has such a solution, where we can then bridge all of those Unity Gardens together in the virtual spaces, so that we can have these conversations virtually, just as we're having now over Zoom, but where we can now expand upon it and build something much more dynamic within virtual reality spaces, and then really bring the communities together. And this is where we're calling these projects the Celebrating the Diversity Catalytic Projects. And actually these words, I have to thank Heinrich for these specific terminologies that he came up with himself, actually, in our Zoom call during our conversations about creating these catalytic projects in some of our local communities, especially here in North America, but also in Africa, in certain communities like in Nigeria or in Kenya or in South Africa, or in hopefully some of the least developed countries like Sierra Leone, where we can then have these projects, these community Unity Gardens, connected together and learning from each other, teaching each other, and really being able to provide the learning that would allow them to be able to become self-sufficient, especially in terms of food security. So we're looking at what we call climate smart infrastructure, as well as climate smart food production systems. Hello, Chiemeze.
Yes.
Would you like to introduce yourself as well? Everybody else has introduced themselves earlier as well.
Thank you, Ambassador Lloyd. I am Dr. Chiemeze Atama, joining from Nigeria, University of Nigeria to be precise, and also the founding director, Equity Watch Initiative, a non-governmental organization that is committed to promoting gender equality and empowering women and girls. I'm happy to join the call. Thank you.
So I wanted to mention that Chiemeze is helping us to actually deliver something called the Climate Smart Youth Forum event, which we are hoping to have in October. So between October 4th, which is Global Cooperation Day, and World Food Day, which is October 16th, we're hoping to hold these both a hybrid and in-person, basically virtual and in-person event for this week. Basically, it's 11 days between October 4th and October 16th. And Dr. Atama has kindly offered to help assist to deliver the in-person event, hopefully at the University of Nigeria. And then we can have that simulcast and broadcast around the world, so that all of our local chapters of the UnityNet can participate virtually and also have contributions to this what we call Climate Smart Youth Forum event during the week between October 4th and October 16th. So we can run a number of events hopefully on during that week. So I'm actually in the process as well of putting together an Eventbrite page for that Climate Smart Youth Forum Week event. A little more, it's actually more than a week, but assembling as well the teams of people that will contribute to that event. So we're hoping to really move forward on the learning. And so as I noted there's a brief agenda, we're trying to create something called the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development. What we want to do ultimately is create a professional network of practitioners in what we call regenerative development. So we're thinking, again, beyond 2030, what are the next set of goals? We're in the Sustainable Development Goal period right now. We're going to transition to the next phase of the global goals. We don't know what that is, but we would like to hope that the UN will adopt this terminology around sustainable development, shifting toward regenerative development. In essence, we need to regenerate our planet. We need to regenerate Mother Earth. How do we do that? What are the solutions to achieving a regenerative economy? There's the economic solutions. There's the social solutions. There's the community solutions. There are the infrastructure solutions. What are all those solutions that we need to implement to achieve not just a regenerative economy, but a compassionate, collaborative regenerative economy that leaves no one behind? So that is the overarching goal that we're trying to achieve for a post-2030 economy. But we want to demonstrate those solutions today or as soon as possible, which is why we'd like to start setting up these Unity Garden learning centers in all our local communities in order to start demonstrating some of these solutions, which are going to be integrating so many aspects, whether it's in the physical realm or in the spiritual realm or in the community development realm, in the healing realm, in the health and wellness realm. So the Unity Gardens are intended to be these cooperative places where all the community members can come together, especially the young people. So working in partnership with all the schools, as I mentioned, universities, colleges, high schools, public schools, even all the way down to the youngest children in our daycare centers, who should be able to have access to these spaces to learn from a young age with their families. And so our network is also promoting these ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. We've developed these community engagement events and programs, both the virtual events like we have now, as we have every week. We have our IGU Summit, which is the Indigenous Global Unity Network Summit events that I host every Thursday with Andrew. And then we have other events that we want to do, like the tree tree planting, the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation tree planting, which creates the sacred spaces in our local communities where people can gather and discuss solutions, as well as things like Bubble Fun festivals and tea diplomacy initiatives, which is another virtual event, which is essentially intended to bring our local communities together. All of these are intended to allow local communities to collaborate, but also to collaborate between communities from around the world. So we can do virtual collaboration through these events and learn from each other from the highest levels of government and corporations all the way down to the grassroots level, sharing the solutions we actually need to achieve this overarching vision, this goal of the regenerative economy that leaves no one behind. So again, the three agenda items, one of the things we're trying to do is create the backbone of what we call Global Partnership for Regenerative Development. So we want to start identifying and bringing into our network all of those professionals, especially that are capable of delivering solutions for achieving this regenerative economy. So as we move forward, we identify those, whether they're networks or companies or organizations, nonprofits, for-profits, co-ops, individuals, those people that have the solutions and bring them into this partnership. So we'd like to develop the largest the largest network of professionals in regenerative development on Earth. Basically, we'd like to do this, of course, over the next several years. As we're building our network now, we're starting to identify those solutions providers, those that have experience, for instance, in permaculture or food forest design, or of course these solar roof buildings, or whatever is considered to be regenerative of our communities, whether it's community health or community, actually the physical infrastructure in our communities. We'd like them to become part of this network. So this is essentially the work that we're doing. And then the second point on the agenda is basically what we call these catalytic projects that Heinrich brought in, that terminology, where we want to create some, I think PodNet uses this terminology called proof of concept, POC projects or pilot projects in some of our local communities, where we're going to identify a few of them, hopefully then. And this leads into the third point on the agenda around funding. How do we get funding to do this, to actually build this network of Unity Gardens in all our local communities, at least in these very important, I think, key communities where we can actually do this. And there's a team that says, yes, absolutely, I want to do this. We need the enthusiastic young people, especially, plus the leaders. And I think that's the people who are on this call are the leaders who say, yes, this is absolutely what we need to be doing. So our young people have a better future and can actually have some kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? A hope for the future. Because I think right now there's a general lack of hope for the future, especially among our young people. I mean, one of my colleagues, Stephanie's always talking about the fact that young people there's a suicide crisis, even here in Canada, where young people are just looking at the news and saying, well, I don't see a future for myself. Why should I even have children or family? And what is the hope for the future in our young children? And so I think that malaise is taking over too much of our mental processes in this day and age. And so we need to provide these spaces where especially young people look at these solutions, say, yeah, there is hope for the future. All we need to do is build this stuff and work together. And this philosophy of Ubuntu, which we are also promoting, which of course is an African concept, that we need to work together. We need to create an economy that allows people to uplift each other and not just compete with each other and eliminate the competition, but actually work together. We actually call this concept of Ubuntu in business, where we're not just trying to destroy the competition and be the top of the pyramid, but let's lift everybody equally out of poverty, and let's make sure that we can all thrive in this whatever future economy we're co-creating together. So I'm hoping that if everybody's looked at the brief agenda, what we'd like to do again, establish this network, the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development, start, if we can, assembling local teams that can start thinking about building these physical places in our communities to demonstrate these solutions, these what we call open source regenerative climate smart infrastructure solutions, the gardens, the forests, the kitchens, the farms, and the pod buildings. These are the 5 solutions we decided we would promote. And then how do we fund this? How do we get this moving and actually have some seed funding so we can all build this network together?
Lloyd, you have David who's hand raised.
Yes.
Yeah. I was wondering, because timing is important. You had mentioned the possibility of approaching Jim at the Markham Rotary. Do you feel that's appropriate to do now? We at Rotary have access to an official member directory. And believe it or not, you can find a lot of people in there. And I did look at the Markham Club listing. As of July 1, Jim stopped being president. I forget the name of the person who came in. And then I looked at the Markham Rotary website, and it seems Jim is still very much involved with communicating and so forth. So do you think this is the right time for you and me and others to perhaps have a dialogue with that Rotary Club?
Yeah, I think so. I've actually presented to the Rotary Club before in Jim, so that's how I knew him, because they actually, I believe there are 2 Rotary clubs in the city of Markham.
Yeah.
One is the Rotary. Jim was with the Rotary Sunrise, I believe it's called.
Yeah.
So they have early morning meetings.
Yeah.
Which is why they're called the Sunrise Group. So they have, I believe it's on Saturday or something, they have the Rotary Club meetings at the Markham Civic Center, which is where the town offices are. And I did a presentation about Drawdown a few years ago when we started Drawdown Markham. I believe it was in 2019 before the pandemic.
Yeah.
I did a presentation about Drawdown for the Rotary Markham Sunrise. But there is also a second Rotary Club here that we could potentially also invite to have a conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know what a good timing would be, but we could have maybe a preliminary conversation just by Zoom with Jim, just to say, okay, can we arrange to, let's say, bring in members of the other Rotary Club plus members of his own Rotary Club, the president, the new president, I guess, of the Rotary Markham Sunrise, and then we can invite even our counselor, certain counselors in the community. My counselor, I know, Issa Lee. We've been having these conversations. We've had Zoom calls like this with her. She's very much on board with us doing a tree planting ceremony next year here actually, she's even pointed out we want to do it in this particular park, which is actually a public park in my community. And so that would really make it a public conversation, especially with the city of Markham, with the Rotary Club, and hopefully we can invite actually the Lions Club as well as a part of the partnership, because Issa Lee, my counselor, is actually the former president of the Lions Club of Markham as well.
Excuse me, Lloyd. Before we get too far afield, it sounds that I heard David say that the Rotary Club International are looking for ways to get involved locally. So David, I'd like to open the question up to the people here on the call to see if they know of any Rotary clubs in their local area, particularly here in Los Angeles or Chicago or even South Africa for that matter, because I'd like to have an outcome for today and not just a conversation. What will be our next steps? That's the point of this conversation. And also, Wayne Lyons, I'm not sure if you're ready or not, but I think you have presented to me an email that showed a comprehensive way that we can all network together. I don't know if you want to share that with us briefly or not, Wayne, but I do want to ask David if I heard you correctly in that it's a national drive or international drive for Rotary clubs, and this may be a way for us to both help them accomplish their objectives and for them to help us accomplish ours.
No doubt about it. 2 things. You brought up the Lions Club. Rotary International this week is launching events where Rotary would like to see increased collaboration with Lions, with Gowanus. So I'll send that over. The other thing is the Rotary Foundation has a number of different types of grants, both domestic and global. They come in all shapes and sizes. I was successful with my Haiti project But if you're in need of funding, definitely getting together with other Rotary clubs domestically and globally would perhaps be a very useful thing. And these awards tend to be non-competitive. You have to follow a very specific structure, but they are not competitive. And to answer Andrew's question, I think this would have tremendous potential for our group here, as well as the other groups we've been talking about, to achieve mutual goals.
Yes, thank you. Also, Nichelle Farrell had a question for you. Actually, for me, that Lloyd, you can help answer as well. And that's whether something like Matt Fox ecosystem could be a way that could provide us with a way that we can all collaborate together. So Nichelle, just let me let you know that we actually have an Andrew Networks portal already set up. And next month, I'll be funding it to go to work. So now's the time to start for us planning to take advantage of these resources that we have at our table. So just a note.
Thank you.
Yep. And just to share about what was just spoken on, I have a hard stop at the top of the hour, but I will respond in the email thread that I got this link in. And I'll also put in what I have access to, which is the Grapevine community. So it works as a family trust type of system where each of us as leaders and organizers, we could join this group for free and we could set whatever it is we want as a membership to have a commitment for the leaders, but it's free to join. And what the platform provides is a space to bring tax exempt dollars, donations, and support for every nonprofit that this group of leaders are influencing and influenced by, and choose where we want to allocate the funds that are given to this group and this trust, which is the lady is a Harvard graduate, and that's one platform. But also I wanted to share about my connection with the Rotary Club, Toastmasters, and also the Dale Carnegie School in Los Angeles. So talking about different leaders that we have. And in this email that I'm going to follow up with, I'm going to give you guys an application for some private lenders that I've gotten in contact and built a relationship with through my certified minority business enterprise, which is Mastermind Consulting Group. And from there, all you have to do is fill out the application. And if you have around like a 700 FICO score, or if the organization is making $10,000 per month or more, or anything like that, we could get funding in 24 to 72 hours. So I'm going to follow up with those resources. And if the application takes maybe 5 minutes to fill out, 5 to 10 minutes. So if we have a quick turnaround, I'll definitely be able to send that in the email following the email that I was sent with this link. And I would love to follow up and stay in touch. I'll leave my calendar link there so we can schedule a follow-up call.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you guys for having me. Thank you guys for your commitment to kingdom building. It truly does take a team. You know, teamwork makes the dream work, and we got to always remember, God is love, and love conquers all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaste. All
Yeah,
right,
what
Lloyd,
I wanted to mention very quickly, just before you leave, Wayne, is that
Yes.
we do have something called the Global Sister Schools Program. That's actually a brainchild of our colleague in South Africa. Juliette Miabo came up with that concept, and we're going to try to create sister schools through these INAB collaboratives, these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives. So it won't be the school to school, it will be through the INAB collaboratives that are established in the local communities, which is the 7-sector partnership that we're trying to create in each community. So we partner with all the schools. So it won't be like this university, that university. It will be all the schools in this community and all the schools in that other community. And then that partnership will be created.
That sounds
Yeah,
great.
we'll get this reporting out to you. We know you have to leave, Wayne. We'll get this
Thank you.
reporting out to you as well to follow up.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Peace and love, you guys. Shalom.
Hi, Lloyd. How much longer are we going to take, and what's the outcome here?
Well, I think the outcome here is just to have this follow-up conversation, I think, with David and Jim. I think that can be the next step. I'm hoping I'll also invite, eventually we'll have that first meeting with Jim. We'll see how we can move forward on that. And then we can invite other members of our local community here in Markham to have the next steps from that initial meeting with Jim to move forward, so we can talk about, I really want to talk about establishing a physical center here connected to this network of centers around the world in whatever communities, wherever we are, especially of course in the US, but also in Africa and South Asia and wherever around the world. This is ultimately what we're trying to do, is build local community garden learning centers everywhere that are connected together, like over a platform like Easy Expo or whatever.
Right. Well, before Seema leaves, since she is involved here in Los Angeles and is dealing with food insecurity, and we all know that our work throughout Canada, particularly with Joan Kerr and others with Victory Gardens, makes having local food security part of our outgoing and ongoing efforts. Seema, I will follow up with you to find out specifically how we can work and network with you together here locally to get that done, and we can tie you into our global network.
By the way, there is
Okay,
a UnityNet California group, discussion group. We haven't created the LinkedIn or Facebook groups for them. We don't typically do that for others, but we did create a WhatsApp group for California that's being led by a lady by the name of Lisa Anise Sutphin. I believe she's in not Los Angeles, but in San Francisco. And so she's also she's with the SID UNESCO, which is the Dance Council of UNESCO. So we're hoping as well to have UnityNet Africa Diaspora as a continental NGO become a member of UNESCO. And so if we are eligible for UNESCO membership, we're eligible for all multilateral memberships of all of these organizations.
Before Seema leaves and Marshawn, I do want to say that the reason for the call is to find out what you're doing locally where you are and find ways what we're doing can help you. So if you have your email address in the contact list, I'll send this link out to today's conversation. But this is only the beginning for you guys. We've been doing this for quite some time, but we're now moving into implementation. So Seema, your work you're doing here, let's uplift that. Marshawn, I know you have a long list of things to do, and we like for each of you to make a presentation at our upcoming event. As Lloyd says, Thursday mornings at, I think it's 8 o'clock, Thursday mornings, my time. We have presentations that are from around the world, but we want to invite you to participate because we in California are also part of the global diaspora and represent indigenous people, as I am, as Marshawn does. So yes, make sure that you let us know what we can do to help you. So thank you very much.
Yeah, so actually Andrew brings up a good point, and this UnityNet we're trying to create is actually what we call a global empowerment network. So we want to empower all of our local community members to achieve resilience to the effects of climate change, to achieve food security, to achieve income security. This vision of a compassionate, collaborative, regenerative economy that leaves no one behind is essentially where we're trying to establish ourselves as a global network, this global partnership for regenerative development, to really uplift the entire world, and especially those who have been most left behind and most marginalized historically, to empower them to uplift themselves out of poverty and become the new leaders of the next generation of young people who will be the ones to determine their own collective future on this planet, even if we aren't able to achieve those other big goals like climate change goals of the United Nations, which so far doesn't look like we are on that path. So we're going to have to adapt. We're going to have to rearrange our infrastructure, all of our communities if we're going to be able to thrive in a vastly different climate and potentially a world of where we need to rely on renewable energy instead of oil and gas and these fossil fuels that we're using right now.
Shamiz, I see you've unmuted yourself. This is the time for closing thoughts and ideas, people.
Hello, I didn't get you.
I saw you unmuted. Did you have a comment, or if not, would you like to offer a closing thought?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I won't be able to on my camera. You know, it's already late here and our light is having issues. So even if I on my camera, you won't be able to see me. I'm sorry about that. But I just wish to say thank you very much, everyone, for the effort, for the commitment, the work has been amazing. I've been following up on all the conversations, and it's just so amazing for me, seeing that people somewhere are thinking about how to better the world, how to impact Africa. Of course, it's no more news to begin to narrate all the issues, all the challenges we are facing down here. And I'm just so fulfilled to learn that people are making efforts to see how we can change the situation. So just continue to appreciate all of you that are engaging, that are reaching out, that are leveraging different platforms to ensure that we make progress. I would also like to say that while we look at how we can work around this, there is an issue. I'll call it an issue because it's already choking. We started a plan to organize a bootcamp program for teenage and adolescent girls that is already here, and we are yet to get any support for the program. I've reached out to some of us individually, and I'm also raising it here. I know that one thing we have all been looking at is how to empower people, especially the marginalized. And around here, women and girls are the most vulnerable as far as I'm concerned. And what we are trying to do is to address gender-based violence in a holistic way, leveraging agriculture, smart agriculture, and also other empowerment programs that will help them to be able to face the challenges that is facing them, which are enormous. Because one key thing we have come to realize is that sexual violence is at a very high level here. And without addressing it, it will be difficult to even begin to address all the gender-based violence. And so we came up with this initiative to begin to build the capacity, self-esteem, and confidence of teenage and adolescent girls, while preparing them for other empowerment programs, that we think is highly needed. So I just wish to say that I'm excited about the whole thing, and I am really convinced that we are on the right track. So thank you once more, and I sincerely appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'm seeing a note from Heinrich. He says it's International Women's Day. I believe actually it is the International Day of the World's Indigenous Peoples today, August 9th. I'm not sure about the Women's Day today.
Yeah, yes, because I know that International Women's Day is March. It's usually March 8th. So I think you got it wrong.
So thank you all for coming on. I guess unless there are some final words, Heinrich, you wanted to say a few?
Yes, it's definitely Women's Day today in South Africa.
Okay.
Yeah, I've picked up that there's an association of technical universities and polytechnics in Africa called ATUPA, ATUPA. And if you look at the goals of these universities, that this unit responds to challenges and targets set by the national departments of education, the United Nations, SDGs. A lot of the what they are planning to do overlap actually with what we are saying. And I was thinking that just Jimisi might play a role with affiliation with the University of Nigeria to see if we can get the audience with this group of people and see how, you know, we can cooperate with them to achieve those goals that both the institutions want to achieve. I believe that we need to create a group of people specifically tasked to tackle this relation linked to our catalytic projects in responding to the needs of higher education in Africa. To deal with schools is always quite difficult because there's so many rules and regulations, and it takes eons to get things done. I think if we tackle it from the top, we might get quicker results in getting things going. And there's a, you know, a huge need for maker stations and all these things that we are envisaging with our education systems and skills development programs in UnityNet as well. And if we can link up with initiatives all around in Africa pertaining those issues, I think we can really make quick inroads to get what we want to do off the ground. Thank you.
So I'd like to ask you, Heinrich, if you could put that information about that network of universities, colleges into the chat so that we have a record of that. If you have that information on hand, maybe a Google search of whatever you had just mentioned. I'd also like to suggest that the Global Partnership for Regenerative Development could be the point of entry to creating this working group, let's say, for engaging with the universities, colleges, and other institutions. I do want to emphasize, though, again, that at the local level, we want to create the partnerships with the universities, colleges, schools, whatnot, through the INAB collaboratives, this Interfaith Neighborhood Academic and Business Collaborative, and not directly school to school, because they will, and I've had this experience before with, for instance, University of Toronto and others, they'll take over the agenda and they'll do whatever they want to do with their students, and they will not, they'll just basically go after the funding that's available from federal governments, let's say, to do their teaching programs for their own students, and they won't be as collaborative as we're hoping they will be, as opposed to if it's done through the local community INAB collaborative, where they're going to say, look, we have a mandate to partner between all the universities in our community, plus all the colleges, plus all the high schools, plus the public schools and the private schools, and whatever they are in the community that says, yes, they have to put their hand up and they say, yes, we want to be part of this, but we're willing to work collaboratively with all the rest of the schools in our community, and not just us and for our students, because that oftentimes I've found in the past, a university, like even if it's in Nigeria or in Kenya or wherever, here in Toronto, I've had that experience where the schools will basically try to do it for themselves and their own students only. So we do need to create the partnerships, and that's important, especially when it comes to these institutions that have these long histories and would like to take over what we're trying to do. So again, I'd like to end hopefully on a high note and say let's move forward. David will get together with Jim and move that track forward for us in our local community, but it's going to be, again, the template for every other community to do similar things, hopefully, as well. With our aim here is to establish events where we're going to create these local INAB collaboratives, these interfaith neighborhood academic and business collaboratives. We do that through the tree planting ceremony that we're going to have in 2023 on World Environment Day which is June 5th, 2023. So that's our target point right now to do our tree planting. And it's not just a tree planting. We want to raise an Indigenous Unity flag as well. So we're working with the Indigenous Unity Flag Organization. You can see that on our logo, especially for the UnityNet Africa and Diaspora. You'll see a little green circle to the left of the main Ubuntu logo, which is the Indigenous Unity flag. We actually want to raise a real Indigenous Unity flag on a flagpole right next to the Tree of Peace and Reconciliation that we plant in our local communities, then have ceremonies and create these sacred spaces in our communities which are symbolized. So every community will have an Indigenous Unity flag flying beside it. So we can bring together all the Indigenous communities of the world in this network as well. Not just, of course, here in North America, working with Indigenous communities, but also in Africa, also in Asia, also in Oceania, everywhere in the world. So we can create this empowerment network, which is, I think, hopefully going to take the leadership position in terms of creating this regenerative economy that we will need young people to embrace if we're going to survive, I think, over the next several decades.
Thank you so much for your closing thoughts. Any more closing thoughts? If not, thank you everyone for being here. We're going to wrap today's session up. Assuming I have your email in the contact, I'll send out the link and also the chat contents. Thank everyone for being here. Again, any closing thoughts? Now at that time. Otherwise, I have a hard stop with another meeting, and I appreciate you all for being here.
Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Goodbye,
very good.
everyone.
Love you all. We're out.
Thank you, Andrew. Bye-bye.
You too.